Today's presenter is Michelle Nelson. Michelle is a business development consultant who brings extensive years of experience in business intelligence and also BI360 specifically. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the presentation. Michelle, take it away.
All right, thank you, Alex, and welcome everyone. Today, as Alex mentioned, we're going to talk about BI360, give you a little tour around and show you, what you're capable of doing with your ERP solutions. I'm just going to go through a couple of PowerPoint slides just to give you an idea what we're talking about. So let me go ahead and go to my next slide here. All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about BI360. We're going to give you, an overview. What is BI360? I'm going to dig in real fast into the demonstration so you can really get a feel for what BI360 is all about. And I just want you to keep in mind it really is Excel-based. So as, most people in the, financial industry, they really do like Excel. I like Excel. So it's a familiar tool that allows you to really do many things. And that comes with, getting integrations with Macola or Acumatica, or there are several other integrations with your CRM or lots of other solutions as well. So let's talk about what is BI360. It really, the title implies it's really well-rounded. It, gives you everything you need. You got your budgeting, you've got your reporting, you got analytics, and then you've got a data warehouse that allows you to integrate multiple sources. So when we talk about budgeting, we talk about, Excel-based forms. So a lot of people obviously are using Excel-based budgeting today, but it's more of a manual process. So this is going to automate that process for you and really drive your budgeting, whether that's workflow and assignments, and really track all that information into the data warehouse. The BI360 reporting, again, Excel-based. You got that live financial and operational reports. We can get to any module inside your ERP solution and report off of that. And you can, that's basically out-of-the-box integration, so it's just, putting that in place. And then, of course, we've got some analytics. So if you're looking at doing some trend analysis, KPIs, we also have a great integration now with Power BI. So if you're using Power BI today, there's a good tool that allows you to interact with the modules inside your ERP solution using the BI360 connector. And then when we talk about the data warehouse, we're talking about, putting in multiple sources. So whether you've got legacy ERP solutions or you want to go into a new ERP solution, we can host all that historical data from the different solutions in one place. It's very easy to configure, SQL-based, and we have all the connectors in the cloud. So just to give you an idea of, there's a couple different ways you can go. You've got the ability to do the newest version of BI360 is in the cloud. As you know, everybody's going to the cloud, but that's that doesn't mean you can't do an on-premise solution as well. Just know that BI360 also has on-premise solutions, but this is giving you an idea that you can do, financial statements, operational reports, your consolidations, planning, budgeting, forecasting, workflows, and data analysis. And as you can see in this kind of architectural overview, you've got the ability to put any data you want into the data warehouse and then report off of it with, whether you're writing data back to the warehouse using your budgeting forms or you're just pulling data from your ERP solutions live. Then you've got your Power BI to really analyze that data. You can see that it's based on Microsoft, Azure, SQL Server, so all your Office 365, your CRM, ERPs, but they have integrations with all the ERP solutions, whether it's Microsoft or just Acumatica, Macola, it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and take a peek at what I'm talking about. Now, as I go through the presentation, I really want you to keep in mind What kind of problems do you encounter today? And if any of these, I want you to come up with maybe one if you could, and put it in the chat box as we go through this process. And think about one problem, business problem, that could be solved with this solution. You might have more, but I guarantee you have at least one. So if you can just give me that feedback by the end of the presentation, I would love to hear that. So right now I'm looking at BI360 in the cloud. And here I am logged in as myself. And basically there are going to be two types of users that can log into the service, right? We have the power users who really control, building reports. They can control the user roles, administration, those kind of power users who kind of build the templates. And then you're going to have end users who just come in. They're not going to see everything here on the left-hand side. They may just see some archive assignments, live reporting, and maybe budgeting, and that's it. So you get to control who sees what modules as well as who sees what's data. So when we get into looking at departments or entities, those kind of things, you're going to be able to really hone in on who can see what at any point in time. You can get very granular if you want. So we've got everything's in a tenant. So if you're familiar with tenants, you can have a private tenant, you can share a public tenant. That's all going to be based off of your decisions if you wanted to move forward. Now once you log in, you're going to see connect your data, work with an expert, become an expert. So you've got all your resources like right inside here. So if you wanted to go to the support portal, you had a question, you can learn more about using the Academy. That's kind of fun. There are videos and there's documentation and white papers and all that to really give you it right from the get-go. So as I mentioned, okay, so here are basically everything over here. We've got archive, which means you can archive your reports. You can also create what we call playlists. This is kind of nice. If I want to look at all my demo reports right here, the fun thing about this playlist is I can just show the whole thing. Or let's say that I want to compare a couple of reports. I can just select a couple reports and hit open. And now it's going to open both the reports. Now I can look at these reports at the same time, maybe do some, analysis, comparison, and so on. So I can look at them both at the same time. And you can actually do more than two. It gets a little busy on the screen, but the options are there. Now under assignments, this is really where you can set up your budgeting workflow. So you can have multiple approvers. You can basically take a report or a budget form and assign it to someone, and then have multiple approvers. So there's a lot of things you can do with workflow, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the budgeting side of things. So let's go ahead and let's take a peek at the live reporting. Now, as I mentioned, you can connect this to the data warehouse, or you can connect it live to your ERP solution. It just depends, what you're trying to accomplish. There's a lot of different connectors, so you can have multiple connections as well. So you can have maybe one for your budget, maybe you have one for your live ERP, and so on. So you're just building those reports off of that connection. Now down here on the left, you can see I've got everything categorized, and I can create a new category and put those reports in there. So this is just kind of making it a little easier. You've got the search bar, so you can search reports. And then, of course, keep in mind that you can also drive these categories by user roles. So if I only want certain people to see certain categories, then I can actually set that up on the user side of things. Then I just can go ahead and you'll hover over, you'll see a little play button. So I just click on that play button. And here is a profit and loss statement. Now here are all the parameters, and I will go in and I will show you how to build a quick report and how you build those parameters, but you can build your reports with any parameters you want. You can, you can filter them out. So there's a lot of things you can do. So for instance, if I look at my choose entity, here is the list of all the entities that I can run this report by. Now, if I'm a particular user that I only want certain users to see, you know, corporate US and just maybe corporate Asia, then that's all they're going to see once they log in. They're not going to be able to see all of them. So you can basically, like I mentioned, set up those security rules so that they only see certain items. You can also set up things so where you can say multiple select. So if you want to select multiple entities to get more of a consolidated view, that's how you build your report. So if I just hit use value, I can select the period, I can select the scenario. Now this is the nice thing about the warehouse as well, is when you get into the budgeting side of things, you can create multiple scenarios. So I've got my actuals, then maybe I budget more than once a year, so I can do my, you know, opening balance, actual, opening balance budget. I can do a forecast. These are all created by you guys when you decide to build those budget forms. Now, once I hit run, it's really going to run the parameters, whatever was there left when I open it. I have the ability to expand this out so I can see it better. So I can see that I've got my, you know, my revenues, my expenses. I've got all kinds of formulas in here, looking at the variance and variance percentage. I'm comparing it to my budget. The nice thing is I can actually drill down from here as well. So if I just go into a cell and right-click, I've got the ability to look at my summary and my details. What it's going to do is just going to push it right into another tab. So I can look at those details. And I want you to keep in mind that these drill downs are very customizable. So let's say that you don't want to show certain aspects of it, whether, you know, it's, you know, period or any of these row comments. This is everything basically in line details, but you can actually filter out what you want to see in your drill downs as well. Now, from here, I have a lot of options. You can see I've got edit, I've got delete, I got export, I can print it. The comment thing is kind of cool. So if I select comment, what it does is it allows me to put in an extra sheet. You can see it adds an extra sheet just like the drill down did. And I can actually put in some comments about this report in here. And then I can save it out. And then the next person who comes in can read my comments. It's going to know exactly who made those comments over here and letting them know those details. And then you can add a sheet. So you can get very creative here in what you want to do. I can also share it. So if I want to pick a user and just share it with that particular user, I can just select all users or maybe a particular user here to share that to. Now what that does is it sends it to their archive and they grab it from their archive. I can also send it to an archive. So once it's in the archive, I can build a playlist off of it. So there's a lot of things I can do with that archive. It doesn't take it out of my live reporting, but it just gives me a copy and puts it in that archive. I can also look at the history of it. So you can see that it was archived yesterday as well. And you can delete these as needed. Now, the nice thing about this is I can actually export this to Excel if I want to look at further analyzing it. That would just give me a static version of this report, and I can also even create a PDF of it. Now, over here on my Edit button, if I'm a user of this solution and I select Edit, what it's going to do is it's going to pull that right into Excel. And I'm going to be able to run that report, modify it, republish it up if I wanted to. So that's the Edit button. Let's continue without saving. So again, it'll give some warnings if you do something and you didn't save it. It'll tell you, that's your little security warning saying, did I save this particular report? So it gives you that security knowing, oh, did I forget to save it? I don't know about you, but I've done that plenty of times in Excel, or maybe my computer crashed. Again, the nice thing about having this in the cloud is you never have to download it It's always going to be a copy up here in the cloud. You can always pull it down, modify it, and publish it as a different version. But just keep in mind that it really is saving all your reports. You don't have to save any, to the network or anything like that, because it will always be up here in the cloud. So just showing you another report. This is, again, a balance sheet. Again, parameters, just choosing entity and period. Like I mentioned, you got the ability to select multiple. I could select all of them and then run my report. And then, of course, I can drill down from here, right? And then I can see all the different details based on the different entities. So you can see it has all the different entities in there. Now you can actually drill down across a subledger. So if I wanted to get into, my accounts payable or receivables or anything like that and get into that subledger information, you can build custom drill downs for that. Out of the box, it's going to give you that details. You don't have to build that, but if you wanted to get a little more creative and drill down to further information, then you can build that directly into the report. So if I go back over here to my live reporting, I can look up, reports by just typing them in. I like having these numbers, so, it's not a bad idea to kind of put some codes on your reports, like R is for reporting and, B is for budgeting. This one I like to show because this is built off a tree node. Now, the nice thing, again, about the data warehouse is you can build trees. So I could build a consolidated tree based on my entities, based on business, line of business. So you can see these are all the different tree nodes that I can build. It's kind of like a roll-up somewhat, but I can select at any point in this tree and run this report. And what that's going to do for me, so let's just say that I run this for my line of business for manufacturing, because we all like manufacturing, right? We're all working in that area. So I run it for manufacturing. And what it's going to do is, if you look under the tree node, I have got corporate. I just got corporate Asia. That's it. So what it's going to do is it's just going to put on a separate tab, corporate Asia. And it's going to give me the same, shrink that up there. This is a little bug, I think. So if I select one that has multiple, so that's our distribution. Does distribution have 2, right? So if I run it on my distribution, just to give you an idea of the difference, it's going to consolidate on the very first tab, and the second 2 tabs are going to be individual for the different distributions as well. So a lot of flexibility, and that's so easy to build inside of your report. It's just a matter of selecting a setting. So you can see right here, I've got my consolidation for both corporate Canada and corporate EMEA, and then I have a separate tab for each. Now, we saw how we drilled down in the previous report. Here you can build the drill downs. You can just say, okay, I want to look at them this way, and you can build them in right inside the report as well. So there's a lot of flexibility on how you build these reports. So I bet you guys are wondering, how easy is it to build this report? So I am going to show you now what it looks like to build this report. So in Excel, you're going to have an additional add-on. It's going to say BI360. Now you could take any template and create a template from it. So if you have a report that you've already created in Excel, maybe it's a manual report, you can take that, open it, and then just hit New Current. If you're creating a brand new report, you can just hit New Blank. Then it's going to ask you to log in. Now, if you're pulling down a report from the cloud, it's just going to open the report right up. If you say edit, it's not going to ask you to log in. It's going to know that you're logged in. So you don't have to worry about having to log in every time. But if you just open Excel and you want to start from there, it is going to ask you to log in. So this is what the report designer looks like. This is where everything starts from. So in here, you'll see I have access to, everything's in my data warehouse, but I have access to all my modules. So I've got my general ledger, my accounts receivable, payable, and so on. Now, you can have anything you want in here. You can build additional modules. That's the nice thing about the data warehouse. So let's say you have all your ERP stuff in there, but maybe you want some CRM stuff. You've got Google Analytics. You can build additional modules and put that data in there. So you have access to all your data in one place. Now, I can open up my general ledger summary, and this is where I can start to build my report. So I'll just build a quick little trial balance just to show you, how simple it is. So all I got to do is drag over my account into a cell. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask me to create a new selection on a row or a column, or maybe I just want the data. Okay, so I'm going to create a selection on the row, so it's going to expand dynamically. I don't have to do anything, but just put that account on there. Once I do that, it puts it in this, what we call its layout editor. Now in here, you can, this is, if you're building a profit and loss statement, you can go in and you can select which accounts you want to see. So you can deselect, you've got all kinds of combinations. You can put, a range, and then maybe you want everything and you just type in 9999. So you get making sure you get everything that gets added after the fact. So if you add a new account, it's going to automatically update this template, and we don't have to go back and worry about modifying that. We'll go ahead and we'll keep it empty so we can see all of it for our trial balance. And then if you want any additional data from your account, so maybe I want my account description in there, I could have account categories, I've got offset. All this again is building in some flexibility for your data warehouse there. Now I want some measurements. So I go ahead, I've got my monthly amount, just drag that over. Now from here, if I go to the Run tab, just to give you an idea, I don't have any parameters. Remember we talked about building those parameters in there. So if I just have no parameters, it's just going to pull in everything, right? It's just going to pull in everything, consolidate everything. So that's why you're going to build in those parameters there. So if I go back under this little button here, this is my sheet filters. Now I want to, let's say I want to run it by period, of course, certain period, and maybe entity. Now if it's a parameter in which it has multiple options, it's going to bring up this wizard, this parameter wizard, so you can make it however you want. And you've got different styles in which you can build this report. So whether you want them to be able to type it in, which I think, we really don't use that very much. We want them to be able to look up an entity, maybe a drop down, a checklist. And as I mentioned earlier, you could do that tree functionality as well if there's a tree built on that particular attribute or dimension. Then our next option is default value. So maybe here's all my entities in here. Maybe I just want to have that as my default. And then if I put up my lookup filter, so maybe I only want them to be able to choose, because this is part of my tree, I only want them to be able to choose these 4 items. So that means they're only going to see those 4 items. You can hide things. Sometimes you hide things based off of, you want a certain parameter in there, and that's all you want to put in there, and you don't want them to be able to choose. That's when you would use the hidden. Allow empty, which means, if you don't choose anything, it's just going to select all of them. Then multi-select. Now you can either have this, let them select multiple items, or if you turn it off, then they're only going to be able to select 1 item at a time. So again, you've got control over how that template is going to be run. And then that create sheet per value, if you guys remember the tree that we saw in that last template, that created a sheet, consolidated sheet, and then a sheet for each entity. That's exactly what that does. So we'll just leave that for now. Now, over here, I've got my parameters. There it is. So here's the report with parameters I have. If I want to show them on the sheet, I just drag them over here. Well, let's put this here. Let's get some more space here so I have room. All right, so now I've got my period empty. That's just showing up on my thing. So now I just choose the period in which I want to run this. And there we go. So there's my account description, and my amount for that particular period. Now, it's going to show me just for this period. Now, there's so many ways that you can expand that, modify that. Also know that out of the box, as we mentioned, drill down capability. So we've got the details, the summary, all that in there. Not much data there, but just giving you an idea. There's my summary level details. Again, this is modifiable. But that just right out of the box. Now, if I wanted to, for instance, expand this out the 3 months, very simple to do. Go back to my general ledger. And then I'm going to select period, and I'm going to drag it on top as a column selection. Okay? So you've got your row, and then you've got your column. So I can select expand or not expand. And then the nice thing about this is we've got period functions built in. That's what I love about this tool. It's so much fun. But anyway, here is all the different period functions. And if there is one that is not here, let me tell you, there's a way to calculate it. If not, there is a way to calculate anything in that period function. So, you know, we've got all years, 2 years forward, all time to date, last quarter, last year, and so on. But I want to see year to date. So what I do is I just drag that right over. So I've got my year to date function. And now if I run this report, now it's going to give me each period on its own column. And I can just click in the box underneath, and then under the one-stop reporting, this is where we just create a sum for the D7, so it knows it's going to expand. Oops. Okay, so there's that. I can do it here as well. So now I've got my totals there. So there's my total for those 3 months, and there's my total down here. Now, see, some of this, if I wanted to, I could exclude, obviously, some of these accounts, so I don't have to have all of them in there. Now, the nice thing about this column functionality is it doesn't have to be period. It could be entities. So if I wanted to see entities across the columns, or maybe department, you can use any of these dimensions as a period expander. Now over here, you'll see the little plus button up there. If I take that off, now it's just going to aggregate it, right? I'm just going to see a consolidated amount. So it's not expanding my 3 periods, just give me a total for those 3 periods to date. And then there's creative ways to get in there and make it pretty. Of course, you know, if you go into the period functions, you can you've got all kinds of labels that you can use, month, week. Now, the nice thing about BI360 is you can actually build reports by the week and by the day. So that's, I think, one of the unique factors of BI360 is getting, you know, as granular as you need to get as far as what kind of data you want to see. Now from here, if I want to put that up to my cloud, all I have to do is hit Upload Report. And we'll save it here. Just say TB for trial balance. And it's just going to push it right up to my live reporting. Let's see where I put it. So I say TB. All right, didn't go in there, but this is where I would share it. It's probably not in those categories, but once it's uploaded, it might have put it into my other tenant. So, but basically, it's just going to put it right in there, and then you decide, how to share it. Okay. So that's how easy it is to build your reports. Now, I also want you to keep in mind that any of these reports we have obviously on a demo site are available to you. So you can use any of them, modify them with your data, just a matter of overwriting those accounts with your account. So once you're connected to your ERP or data warehouse, then you just select that and write right over it, and you can build your report from there. All right, let's talk about budgeting. Budgeting is a big one, I think. I think that's, we've got some out-of-the-box reporting with a lot of these solutions. I mean, they're very limited in my aspect, but there are some, you got your financial reports. You want to get below the GL level, then BI360 is great for that as well. You get to that subledger operational data, and you can build those reports from there. So budgeting. So as I mentioned, you can set up assignments. So let's look at my favorite one is, everybody has a favorite, right? So we could budget anything, our expenses, our personnel, we can build allocations, assumptions. There's just a lot of things that you can do here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to expand this out so we can see it better. And typically we build our little budget forms and we highlight the yellow to meaning those are our input cells. So in here you'll see I'm pulling up corporate US with the Department 100 administration and my budget. Now I could pull up those parameters here real quick and I could change them. And as I mentioned, you can have as many scenarios as you want. So you want to put this to a different budget, 15 or budget 10. Maybe you name them a particular way. You would just highlight that particular scenario, and that is what it's going to be written back to into the data warehouse so that you can pull that data and compare it to your actuals as well. So again, I can go in here and I can just type. So maybe he's the CFO now, and he's the CEO now. We've got, everything in blue is kind of like coming from the data. Here's my hire month. Now keep in mind, this is Excel, so we can do all kinds of fun things. We can build in drill downs, we could build in drop downs, a lot of flexibility there. My annual hours, salary. So here is, let's just give them an increase. Come on, we'll give them an increase in May. And I have the ability to do, a percentage, or maybe I want to do a dollar. I can type in a dollar amount as well. Just showing you, as I type in, you can see the data is updating. And then I scroll over, you'll see that everything looks good, and then May, it goes up, right? May, so my May month is increased by 5%. And 5% from there on. So this is all, calculated using Excel functionality. Now over here, if I scroll in further, I can do total compensation. Maybe that includes my bonuses, commissions, and so on. Then I've got my taxable income. I can even look at my taxable income. My different type of tax rates, my FICA, Medicare. This is kind of a fun thing, and I'll show you here in a minute. You can see these are the rates, and they're actually coming from an assumptions form that was built in BI360 as well. So somebody comes in, fills out the assumption form for this particular period, makes sure the rates are, where they want them to be for the budget, and then it populates in here from that form, and then it calculates based off of those numbers there. So you can get very creative, as I mentioned, in building these reports. So then once I'm done with my budget, I just hit store. Now, if I'm a power user, I have the ability to assign that report. And I like to show this because this is cool. This is the ability to really, okay, I'm going to assign this. I put in maybe my, okay, I did my administration. Now I want to send it to a different department. Let's say 200, And then, of course, all users, I can search for a name if, your list is bigger than mine. And I can just select, the person that I want to assign this to. Now over here, so let user decide. So if I don't check that box, that means they have to use these parameters. So that way I control, exactly where they're putting their data. So if I say, okay, I don't want them to be able to choose, I want them to put in their forecast and their budget in this particular period for this particular forecast and this particular budget form. And then you just hit assign, and that goes off into their assignment tab, as you saw that earlier. So they'll go over here. Obviously, I assign it to somebody else, but same concept. And then again, if I want to save it, make sure I hit save. So here's my assignments, workflows, single assignments. So a workflow would be if I have somebody has to review it, then I need an approver. I'm actually an approver for this. So I can decide whether or not I'm going to mark as review or reject it. And if I reject it, let's first run it. So you have the ability to, let them know, okay, this isn't right. Let me put in some notes, maybe a comment or something, and let them know that this needs to be adjusted. Okay, it froze up on me there. So that's, just one example of a budget form. Let's dismiss that, go back. All right, stop that script then. And let's just hit refresh. Sensitive today, but let's go right back in. So I want to show you the assumptions form. So if you remember in that personnel form, I had all the different rates, tax rates, and so on. So again, that's where this came from, right? So I could go in here as a power user or the person maybe in control of assumptions, and I just modify those as well. And I store that right back. So now if I hit store, it's going to save that. And now instead of 6% on my personnel form, it's going to be 5% and calculate it based off of that assumption. Now we're actually using this assumption form for multiple reports. We're using it for our travel, our benefits, our capital life, and then doing some calculations of days per month. And you can actually set up some different ones, your travel assumptions based on currency if you wanted to. Now the last budget form I want to show you is this one right here. So you saw a couple of input forms, but this one is a little different. Let's close this up, expand this out. You've got the capability to do spreading. So if I want to do my expenses for the year, I can just type in like you saw before, or I can go to that line, click on that little spreading in details here, and I've got a couple different options. I can say spread 5,000 evenly across the entire year, right? And then it just calculates it for me. Or I can adjust, and I can say based on a different analogy. So you can make your own adjustments. So main line, I could say increase by 5%, right? So it's taking the main line, which is our reference data, which is not much in there, but this is your reference data from previous years. Usually you'll have some data in there, but you can use those lines as well. Now the other thing I can do is I can come in here and I can create, let's get out of this real quick and get into a different, so you see it put it right in there. I'm going to come to a different line here. A lot of data in here. So there's one with empty. So if I want to put in some line item details, so let's say I have to explain my total amount, what I can do is I can put in details here. I can say, okay, 500, 400, oops. And I can just continue on. I can have as many line item details as I want to add up to that number. Now, if I need to explain these numbers, I say this is because it increased or whatever. You can just type in the explanation there so that anybody who comes in and, you know, approves this or reviews this particular budget can see the details there. Now you can see the little red triangle. That is really telling me that I have line item details. So there's line item details on these, and I can just go in and look at them. So if I go in here, some of them have them, some of them don't, right? So that's just showing you, you can spread, you can do percentage or even a unit-based type of adjustment. You can put line item details, and you can put explanations. So a lot of flexibility in how you build your reports. We'll just continue without save. But otherwise, I would just hit that store button to store that data directly back into the data warehouse, which is automatic and instant, and then you can report directly off that as well. So we kind of covered a little bit of reporting, a little bit of budgeting. Now the only difference in building your budget reports is very simple. It's right here. You say, okay, I want to make this. I want to make this a budget field that writes back to the data, and you just select the module it's in, you know, where you want to write it back to, and that's how easy it is to build your budget forms. I just wanted to kind of point that out. I know that was a quick view, but it's all right there in Excel when you build these reports. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is our publisher tool. This is a nice tool. It really allows you to, you know, send these reports out, maybe to non-users or maybe on a regular basis to managers. Now, the nice thing about BI360 is really is self-service. So you want your managers to be able to come in here and build these reports or create reports and have them accessible to the managers. So here I've got a couple different jobs. I can create a new one just so you can get an idea what it looks like. And we'll call this Algo. And you can have a description if you want. This is knows exactly where you know, connection I'm in, so I don't have to worry about that. And then over here I can browse the templates I want to publish out. So you can see I can search for them. There's a lot. Let's just select the P&L one there. And then over here I can select who I'm going to send it to. Let's see where that, okay. And then over here is the parameters. So I can run it for any period, any scenario, and any entity I want. So if I go in here, I can select, you know, run it for these two, consolidate. Okay, this is a single one, so I can only select one. So we'll just select that. And then who is going to receive it? We'll send it to me so I can show you how it gets sent. And then destination over here. So you can send it to a user's archive. So if they're a user of BI360, they can come in here and see that. And then maybe you send it to their archive on a scheduling basis. Or you can just email it, right? Down here, I've got my schedule. So I can decide if I'm just going to send it today, or maybe I'm going to send it on a regular basis, a monthly basis on the first day of every month at 11:15. So from here I can save this, or I can save and run. So let's go ahead and save and run it. So now what that's going to do is just going to email me that report. It's going to be a static report, but it's going to be a report all the same. So let's go and see if it came in yet. It's there. It's coming. I see it. Doesn't see me. Oh, because I have it on by unread, not date, right? Ah, there we go. I had a filter on that. So here it is. Here is the report. All I have to do is open it right up in Excel. So you can set up, obviously I didn't have any data in that particular one, but you're picking up, I think that was a dummy one. But you'll see the report, it'll be just static, and it keeps in all the formulas and so on in there, but it'll be static data. Workflow, as I mentioned, you can create a workflow. So here's a typical workflow. Just open this up. Or you can create a new one. Doesn't like me. So you basically assign a workflow name, reviewer, approver, which templates, who's it assigned to, and then you publish that out, and that workflow goes into effect. So it will be under their assignments, right? It's going to be in their workflows. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I open up to questions here is the data warehouse. Now, as I mentioned, all kinds of different connectors that you can connect your data to, whether it's Macola, Acumatica, CRM. You'll see, if I add new, these are all the built-in connectors. So even if it's just a CSV file that I want to create, or it's OData, I've got my SQL down here. So really there's nothing we can't connect to. So you've got Salesforce. So basically it connects to everything. Back to showing you the different modules. So here's all the modules, they were dumped in from my ERP, so I have that historical data. I can also connect, as I mentioned, to live ERP data. But all this is customizable. That's what I love about this is I can come in here, maybe I have my account structure set up a certain way, but I could build in additional attributes. So we built in some roll-ups here. I can build up roll-ups. I can do offset accounts. So some of these fields weren't necessarily in my ERP. I create them right here in the data warehouse. Very simple to do. We talked about trees. You can build trees. Here is an income statement tree. I also got a balance sheet tree. And that's when you saw me create that report that created a sheet per value, right? So I can build in that as well. Now, another very important aspect of BI360 is the ability to not only do consolidations, eliminations, but currency as well. So your currency exchange, your rate types, have as many as you want. Dump in your rate types on a monthly basis, and then use those rates in your reports. So very configurable, very flexible, allows you to do many things. And that really is BI360, really all-encompassing and showing you the flexibility it can provide. So now I want to open it up to questions for the last few minutes of our time together. And you guys are going to tell me what business problem you think this could solve for you, right? Each one of you are going to give me one, because I know you promised me.
Well, wow, thank you for covering so much in there, Michelle. It's
no problem. I know it's a lot.
a lot of different ways that can be used. It's pretty incredible. We do have some questions in the chat.
Great.
Go ahead and open it up there. So first question is, can you drill down to subledger information?
Yes. So if you want to drill down from maybe your sales down to your accounts payable, you'll be able to create that drill down. You can customize all kinds of drill downs to go across subledger information.
Okay. The next question we've got here is, what technology is the data warehouse using?
So as I mentioned, it uses SQL. So anything that is SQL based, we can dump into the data warehouse.
All right, easy enough. How about the mobile side of BI360?
Yeah, so it is accessible through your mobile phones, your iPads, your tablets, your desktop. So you can access those reports anywhere, anytime, allowing you to really kind of look at your financial situation at any day, any time of the day.
Okay. Then looks like final question here. Are there templates that are available for reuse?
Yeah, so all the templates that you saw in my particular demo model are available, and we have just about everything. We've got, stuff for manufacturing. We've got consolidated type reports, currency exchange reports, really covering the gamut of, what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to see. So yeah, definitely you guys would have access to all of that.
All right, very good. Well, it looks like that's the end of our questions here, so we can go ahead and wrap up a few minutes.
Let me just mention one more thing. I know I mentioned Power BI. I didn't really show that, but if you guys are interested in seeing that connector or how that might integrate with Macola and BI360, please reach out and let us know, and we can give you a personalized demo. And just keep in mind, we can do a personalized demo if you guys want to get into your business cases.